door yonder so I can take a look around at what you've seen. I can see from where I am you're on an adventure in a place you can't describe. Some things can't be captured in words. So show me colors, colors I need.
Alright, what's up mga kamat learner? Isang magandang araw sa inyong lahat. Ako pa rin ang inyong abot kamay na mga teacher, si Sir Ash. At welcome dito sa ating live discussions on the quarter 2 modules. Very sorry my dear math learners at medyo nahuli tayo sa pag-discuss ng grade 8 at saka grade 10 quarter 2 module 4 modules discussion because of the unexpected effect ng ating Typhoon Odette na dumaan sa Philippines last week. So medyo nagkaroon tayo ng mga internet interruption. So I hope, my dear math learners, you could still consider this discussion as helpful as possible sa inyo, my dear math learners. Bakit? Because this may not be, this is live, but this is just a pre-recorded live. Okay? So, no editing ito, my dear math learners. Alright, so let us start the discussion for the quarter 2 module 4 for grade 8 students. And this is all about the relationship of hypothesis and conclusions of if-then statements and its equivalent statement. So, my dear math learners, ito dito medyo konting, ano lang tayo, medyo konting, alright, okay, medyo konting less solving lang tayo dito. Bakit? Because we are talking about cause and effect. So, i-consider natin sa discussion na ito na if ever this is the statement, what could be the possible effect? Or if this is the effect, what could be the possible cause? Okay, so yun yung mga if and then statements. Alright, okay. Magsisimula na tayo. Sa first page ng ating module ay ang cover page with the title. The second page is the people behind the module. And by the way, this module is still brought to you by the Department of Education. So none of the modules that I discuss in our live sessions are owned by me. Okay? So hindi. Ako ay isang public school teacher at nandito ako handang-handa para tulungan kayo sa inyong discussion tungkol sa ating modules. Alright. Next, the third page is the title page, and that is all about the relationship of hypothesis and conclusions of if and then statements and its equivalent statement. Alright. Next is the introductory message for the teachers as well as for the learners. And on the fifth page, there we have our objectives for the module. Okay. Now, let us start. Okay. So, in this module, we will identify the hypothesis and conclusions of if and then or conditional statements, okay? And then transform a statement into an equivalent if and then statements. Okay, so technically, wala tayong solving masyado ngayon. Alright? So, the next part of the objectives is the pretest. So, no worry, my dear math learners, you can answer this. ABCD lang po. And this is, I think, 15 item. Okay, so most likely, you know naman na pag hypothesis and conclusion, di ba, it is usually, okay, or commonly used in science. Alright, sa mga science natin na subjects. So, mga experiment, mga studies, mga ganun-ganon. Okay, now let us start. After the pretest, we have the introduction of the discussion. So, we have here an activity as their introduction. This is known as the inbox-outbox sheet. Alright. So, we have here what conclusions can you give why some students are faced with problems in life such as failing grades and even difficulties in obeying their parents. So, ano daw yung mga makukonclude natin mula sa mga estudyante kung bakit meron silang mga life problems like failing the grades or hindi sumunod or merong kahirapan sa pagsunod sa kanilang mga magulang. Okay, so ilalagay mo yan dito. So, of course, this is opinionated. So, pwede mo ilagay kung ano yung mga dahilan or ano yung mga pwede nating sabihin We therefore conclude, or generalizations natin kung bakit nafe-fail ang bata and kung bakit nahihirapan silang sundin ang kanilang mga magulang. By the way, just a trivia, I made in my thesis in the master's degree, I made reasons why students fail or why they drop out in school, and somehow those are what I do right now in the channel is one of the things in order to become a remedy or solusyon sa ating mga students na nahihirapan sa pag-learn ng mathematics. Okay, so at least 'di ba sa math magiging magaling na sila dahil sa ating channel. All right. Okay. So now let us go to activity 2, judge us. All right. So the direction here is very simple. Tell whether the second statement is a valid consequence of the first statement. Right? Only valid or invalid. Okay. So example, we have here, teens who are good in mathematics are smart. All right. Mark is smart, then he is good in mathematics. So answer daw dyan ay valid. So, teens who are good in mathematics are smart. So, kung ikaw daw ay magaling sa mathematics, ikaw ay matalino. Alright. Now, kung si Mark ay matalino, then we can say na magaling din siya sa mathematics. Ganon, valid yun. Alright. Ito naman, number 2. Young actors are health conscious. Alright. So, the statement is, Kyle is a young actor, then he is health conscious. So, could it be a valid statement? Okay. Excuse me. So technically, my dear math learners, these are the things that you need to understand. Okay, so we have here number 3. If it rains, then the field demonstration will be cancelled. It rained, therefore the field demonstration was cancelled. All right, so valid yun. Now sa number 2 naman, young actors are health conscious. Kyle is a young actor, then he is health conscious. Well, pwedeng valid statement yun mula sa first statement. Okay. If the lines are parallel, they do not intersect. Line W and line Z do not intersect. Therefore, they are parallel. Okay, pwede. If two angles are right angles, then they are congruent. Angle R and angle S are congruent, then they are right angles. Hindi ito valid. Bakit, my dear math learners? Kasi, pwede naman ang angles congruent pero hindi sila right angles. Example, you have, let's say, ang angle R natin ay 45 degrees. Ang angle S naman natin ay 45 degrees. Pero, as a whole, 45 degrees is not a right angle, di ba? So, mga ganun. So, hindi pwede. So, there are, anong tawag dyan? There are times that it could be possible, but at all times, dapat i-consider mo whether that is valid or not. Alright. Now, ang lalim nun, sir. Okay, so now let us go to the number 6. Miss Earth candidates are environmentalists. Okay. Miss Janice is a candidate to the Miss Earth search. Therefore, anong masasabi natin dyan? Therefore, alright, she is an environmentalist. Oh, ganon. Alright, so napakadali lang. Now, if and then statements. So, an if then statements is composed of two clauses, meaning parang dalawang statements, all right? Dalawang phrases, all right? The if clause and the then clause, parang nag-i-English na tayo dito ngayon. English subject. We can denote a letter for each clause. P for the if clause and Q for the then clause. The statement is in the form if P, then Q. Okay. Conditional statements are formed by joining two statements P and Q, using the words if and then. Then P statements is called the hypothesis and Q statement is called the conclusion. So if blah 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 blah, hypothesis yon. Then blah 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 blah, conclusion yon. Alright, so ganun lang kadali, my dear math learner. Easy, right? Yes, easy lang talaga. So now let us go to examples. Teens who are good in mathematics are smart. Okay, so if then statement natin, if you are good in mathematics, then you are smart. Okay, so hypothesis, you are good in mathematics. Conclusion, matalino ka. Okay, sana all. Alright, next, we go to the next. Parallel lines do not intersect. Okay, so if then statement natin, if the lines are parallel, then they do not intersect. So hypothesis niyan is, the lines are parallel. So, conclusion, they will never intersect or they do not intersect. Ganun lang kadali, my dear math learners. Alright, so let us continue. Now we have here activity 3. Identify the hypothesis and conclusion of the following statement. So napakadali lang. Remember, if blah 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 is the hypothesis, and then blah 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 is the conclusion. Alright, so napakadali lang. Now if we have here, if you are a dog, then you have 4 legs. Alright, so ano dyan ang hypothesis, ano dyan ang conclusion? Of course, if you are a dog, that's the hypothesis. The conclusion is, then you have 4 legs. Alright, next, if an angle measures 90 degrees, then it is a right angle. So, hypothesis is, if an angle measures 90 degrees, and the conclusion is, it is a right angle. Alright, napakadali lang, my dear math learners. Now, we have here number 3. If M is the midpoint of XZ, then M is between X and Z, of course. So, hypothesis, if blah 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 blah, conclusion, then M is blah 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 blah. Alright. So much for that, for number 4. Kayo na ang gumawa niyan. Alright. Okay. So, now let us go to the next. Study the following statement and identify if the 4 possibilities given below is true or false. Okay. Rick promises that if he has a 500 peso bill, he will treat his daughter for dinner. Sa madaling salita, si Bill daw pag merong, or si Rick pala. Okay. Pag si Rick daw ay merong 500 pesos. Ayan, pinalakpakan na ako. Okay. Si Rick daw, if may 500 pesos, ililibre niya ang kanyang daughter for dinner. Alright. So, may 4 na possibility dyan. Una, kapag si Rick ay may 500 pesos, ititreat niya ang daughter niya. Pangalawa, if siya ay may 500 pesos, hindi niya ititreat ang daughter niya. Hindi natin alam bakit. Okay. Third is, kung wala siyang 500 bill, ititreat niya pa rin ang kanyang daughter. And pag 4 is, if ever wala siyang $500 bill, then he will not treat his daughter. So, ano ngayon masasabi natin dito? So, if P, which is our hypothesis, then Q is true except when P is true and Q is false. Okay? Ulitin natin. If P goes to Q is true except when P is true, except when P is true and Q is false. P goes to Q is true when Q is true and P is false. Medyo mahirap yun, anuhin, my dear math learners. So, ito na lang. Mas maganda natin kung i-consider natin ang example. So, meron ditong table para maano natin. So, if the statement is true, ito mga if natin dito, and our Q. If the statement is Q, and then the statement, and then the conclusion. If the hypothesis is true, and then the conclusion is true, then the whole statement is true. Now, there are times that if the statement or the hypothesis is false, and your conclusions is also false, or the conclusive statement is also false, then the whole situation is true. Of course naman, kung mali ang ginawa, magiging mali ang bunga, so ang buong statement ay tama. Yun ang ibig sabihin niya. Alright? Now, meron naman dito. Of course, otherwise, kung true and true, magiging true talaga. Okay, pero meron dito. Kapag true yung sanhi, alright? Or true yung hypothesis, pero false yung ending or yung conclusion, then the whole statement is false. Kapag false naman ang sanhi, pero true ang naging conclusion, it can be true. So, technically speaking, ang magiging false lang is kapag ang hypothesis ay true, pero yung conclusion niya ay false. Alright? So, ganun lang ang pagkakataon na ang buong if-then statement is false totally. Alright, so, example. This is the general for if P, then Q. If it is 8:30 p.m., then it must be nighttime. Of course, kasi gabi naman ang 8:30. Kahit saang parte ka ng mundo pumunta, ang 8:30 p.m. nila ay gabi. Alright. Okay. How about this? P implies Q. So, ito yung mga statement na pwede mong gamitin. Okay? So, if P, then Q, and P implies Q. Okay. If 8:30 p.m. implies it must be nighttime. Yan. Alright. Another statement is P only if Q. 8:30 p.m. only if it is or if it must be nighttime. Q if P. It must be nighttime if it is 8:30 p.m. So that inuna yung Q, then the P. Okay? So just remember, the if or the hypothesis always or mostly starts with the word if. So if P or if it is 8:30, we have here if it must 8:30 p.m. only if yan, it must be nighttime. So hindi itong if it must be night, no. 8:30 p only if only if pertains to 8:30. All right. Now, let's consider this example. So, we have here, I do my homework, I get my allowance. I do my homework, I get my allowance. So, that is the given. So, what does P implies to Q represent? All right. So, in example number 1, the sentence, I do my homework is the hypothesis. And then, I get my allowance is the conclusion. Thus, the conditional P to Q represents the hypothetical preposition or proposition. If I do my homework, then I get my allowance. However, as you can see from the truth above, doing your homework, ang paggawa mo ng homework ay hindi guarantee na makukuha mo yung allowance mo. Tama? Kasi, technically speaking, gumawa ka ng homework mo, o hindi ka gumawa ng homework mo, si parent or yung magulang mo, parang ma-force talaga na bigyan ka ng allowance for your studies, right? Okay. So, however, so sabi dito, in other words, there is not always a cause and effect. Okay? So, ang cause and effect dito, hindi guarantee parate. So, between the hypothesis and the conclusion. So, ito naman, example number 2. The sun is made of gas. Okay, totoo yun. 3 is a prime number. Totoo din yun. Now, these two are both true, right? True at saka true. Pero pag gumawa tayo ng conclusive statement here or hypothetical proposition, we cannot say that if the sun is made up of or if the sun is made of gas, then 3 is a prime number. Alam natin na walang koneksyon ang dalawa. Tama? They stand alone. So, kahit sabihin natin dito, we cannot say na, ito, sabi dito, the logical meaning, logic kasi ito, the logical meaning of this statement is not the same as the intuitive meaning. Okay? In logic, the conditional is defined to be true unless a true hypothesis leads to a false conclusion. The implication A implies B is that since the sun is made of gas, this makes 3 a prime number. Walang sense. However, intuitively, we know that this is a false. This is false. Or this is a false statement because the sun and the number 3 have nothing to do with each other. Alright. So therefore, a logical condition always implication to be true even when the hypothesis and the conclusion have no logical connection. So technically, when we say true, 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 still acceptable because the sun is made of gas, true. 3 is a prime number, true. So if you make, they are both true, so magiging true pa rin yun. However, logically, nakakabobo yun. Okay. Alright. Ay, ewan ko na lang. Alright. Easy, right? Basta easy lang talaga ito. Anyway, so let's continue. Now, let's talk about the conditional statement. You have already learned that the if and then statement is composed of 2 clauses, right? The if clause and the then clause. Alright. Now, the conditional statement are formed by joining 2 statements P and Q using the words if and then. The P is called the hypothesis and the Q is called the conclusion, as what we have learned earlier. Now, observe these statements below. I'll buy what you want when you got a high grade. Alright. Napakasarap nun, sana all. Are you familiar with the statement above? To whom you usually hear this line? Of course, kanino mo naririnig yung line na yan? Kay mama at kay papa. Sometimes kay kuya at kay ate. Alright. what happened if you got high grade? So, sinabi dito, someone will buy you anything that you want. Can you get what you want easily? Depende kung nag-promise sila. Alright? Can we make this statement into if and then statement? Of course, pwede. Okay. So, the hypothesis here is, if you get a high grade, then I'll buy what you want. Alright, so pwedeng ganon. So, the conclusion is then. Alright, so the conclusion is the result of the hypothesis. Keep in mind. So, pwede natin gamitin yun. Sinabi ko ngayon lang. If you get a high grade, then I'll buy you what you want. Alright! Ganon lang kadali, my dear math learners. Okay, here are a few examples. If you work overtime, then you'll be paid time and a half. Okay, so medyo sobra. Tama naman yun. I'll wash the car if the weather is nice. Pwede. Kasi masasayang lang kapag huhugasan mo yung kotse pero uulan din naman later. Tama, madudumihan ulit. If 2 divides evenly into x, then x is an even number. Of course, yes, that's correct. I'll be a millionaire when I win Monopoly. Ayun, parang ano daw, saan dito? Alright. Technically, pwede. Hindi lang sinabi na millionaire ka ng real money. Tama? Because you could be a millionaire if you have millions of paper. You're a millionaire of papers. If ang daming pwedeng kunwari mapagmahal ka masyado. Ayan. Nagbibigay ka ng mga milyong pag-ibig. Ayan. So, milyonaryo ka sa pag-ibig. Alright. So, easy, right? Ganon lang kadala, my dear math learners. Alright. So, another statement here is that all equiangular triangles are equilateral. Yes, that is correct. Okay. Statement 1 and 3 are the if and then. So, if you work overtime, correct. Okay. And if 2 divides evenly into x, that is a difference. The conclusion is you'll be paid time and a half. So, if Sarah works overtime, then what will happen? Correct yun. From statement 1, we can conclude that she will be paid time and a half. If 2 goes into 16, what can you conclude? Then it is 3, or 16 must be an even number. Ganun lang kadali. Now, statement 2 has the hypothesis after the conclusion. Okay. So, ano sabi dito? Nauna daw nauna si conclusion bago si hypothesis. I'll wash the car if the weather is nice. O, yun. Even though the word then is not there, the statement can be rewritten as if the weather is nice, then I'll watch the car. Pwede mong pagbaliktarin yun. If the word if is in the middle of the conditional statement, the hypothesis is always after it. Remember that, my dear math learners. All right. We have statement 4. Uses the word when instead of if. Ayan. If I'll be a millionaire when I win Monopoly. So it should be treated like statement 2. So it can be written, if I win Monopoly, then I will be a millionaire. So pwede yun. Then we have also here statement number 5. If and then are not there, but can be rewritten as, if a triangle is equiangular, then it is equilateral. So as you can see in the statement 5, all equiangular triangles are equilateral. So though wala tayong nabasa na if and then statements dito, we can conclude it, alright? Because it is a factual information. Alright, now rewriting statements if and then form. Okay, so gagawin mong if and then form ito. All students like geometry. So, if you are a student, then you like geometry. Ayan, ganun lang kadali. I bring my umbrella when it is raining. If it rains, I will bring my umbrella. Ganon. Okay. Hindi sinabi dito ang sagot, right? Alright. Ito. It is the rain that causes me to bring the umbrella. Ayan. Not bringing an umbrella that causes rain. Okay. Next. Bob will go to the store if Anna tells him what to buy. So, if the statement here is, if Anne tells Bob what to buy, then Bob will go to the store. Ganun lang kadali, my dear math learners. Okay, so I'm sure this lesson will be easy for you, but you just need to use your power of critical thinking and analysis. All right. Okay. So we have here, if we turn off the water in the shower, then the water will stop pouring. Of course. Okay. So hypothesis, the if statement, then that will be the conclusion. All right. So ganun lang din. Sa number 2, if a population consists, then meron pa rin. If, then meron pa rin. So I will not go deeper on that one because it is very obvious. All right. Now, determine if the given conditional is true or false. Okay, true or false tayo. If the measurement of angle A is 95 degrees, then it is a right angle. Wrong. False yan. Bakit? Because a right angle is always 90 degrees. Alright. Okay. How about this? If x plus 3 is equal to 6, then x is equal to 3. So, kung papalitan natin ng 3 si x, that will give us 3 plus 3 is equal to 6. Is the statement correct? Yes, that is correct. So, it is true. Easy, right? Yes, easy lang talaga. So, if you go to number 6, if you study hard, then you will get good grades. Of course. Of course. Okay, di ba? Sabi pa nga nila, may mga times din na sinasabi ng mga teachers, kahit maliit yung score mo, basta magsikap ka lang. Be attentive, be participative, palagi kang andyan sa klase, palagi kang nagsasubmit ng mga scores. So, teachers do not have any reason for them to fail you. Okay, so, yun, minsan-minsan, yun din ang mga parang tinatawag natin na golden heart ng mga teachers. Alright? So, my dear students, kapag nahihirapan kayo sa klase nyo, kahit math, science, ibang subject pa yan, do your best to submit, okay, whatever requirements the teacher asks for you. Why? Because pag merong effort, they will always give points for the effort. Ayan. Okay, so teachers, hindi yan magbabagsak sa inyo. Alright. Now, let's go to activity 5. Change the following in if and then statements. Alright. So, madali lang to. Smile can start a friendship. If you smile, then you can start a friendship. Alright. Ganun lang kadali. Everything is on the internet is not always true. Okay, so paano ba to? If you read if it is on the internet, then it is not always true. Pwede yun. Alright. Next, number 3, smart teenagers obeys his teachers. If you are a smart teenager, then you always obey your teacher or his teacher. Ganon. Next, we have here, x plus 34 equals 4. X is equal to 30. Of course, this is wrong. Right? But for the sake of if and then statement, how can we do this? If x is equal to 30, ibahin na lang natin. Kasi, ano bang dapat i-add kay 34 para maging positive 4? Okay? So, technically, that would be negative 30. Tama? Negative 30. So, kapag gumawa tayo ng if and then statements dito, if x is equal to negative 30, then x plus 34 is equal to 4. Alright, ganon. Vertical angles are congruent. If an angle is vertical, or if angles are vertical, then they are congruent. Ganon. Alright, napakadali lang, my dear math learners. Easy, right? Yes, easy lang talaga. Now, let us practice more. So, determine the hypothesis and the conclusion of the following statement. Help save the environment by recycling bottles, cans, and paper. Okay. So, hypothesis here is, if you save, if and then, so help save the environment. So, the conclusion here is, we save the environment, okay? So, if you recycle bottles, cans, and paper, then you save the environment. Ganon. Okay, so that is the hypothesis and conclusion. I'm sure you can get that one. Number 2, all isosceles triangles are right. Ayan. If okay. Okay. If triangles are isosceles, then they are right. Okay, ganun, pwede yun. An equilateral triangle is equiangular. So, if the triangle is equilateral, then it is equiangular. Pwede yun. The product of two negative integers is always positive. If you multiply two negative integers, then the product is positive. Ganon. Alright, so ganon lang kadali, my dear math learners. Now, let's go to activity 7. Malapit na tayo matapos. Okay. So, convert each statements in if and then statement and then identify the hypothesis and conclusion. Ganon pa rin. Opposite sides of a rectangle are parallel. So, paano ba to? Okay, so mag-if and then statement tayo dito. If the sides are opposite in a rectangle, then they are parallel. Ganon. Filipinos are God-fearing people. If you are a Filipino, then you are a God-fearing people or person. All math wizards are male o power. Male. Pero masyadong discrimination ito. Alright. Hindi naman. Okay, all math wizards are male. If you are male, of course, if you are good in math or if you are a math wizard, then you are male. Pwede ganun. All dogs bark at strangers. If you are a dog, mali. If you are a stranger, ganon, then all dogs bark at you. Pwedeng ganon. Pwede mong baliktarin yan. A student who attends a medical school becomes a doctor. All students that attends, if a student attends a medical school, then he will become a doctor. Ganon. And so much for that. Okay, 6 to 10, kayo nang bahala doon para magkaroon naman kayo ng chance na kayo din ang gumawa. Okay, let us remember. So, ayan. So, remember, my dear math learners, if and then statement is composed of two clauses. The if as the hypothesis and then as the conclusion. Okay. So, remember this table na magiging false lang ang buong statement ng if and only if, kapag yung hypothesis mo ay true pero yung conclusion mo ay false. Alright? So, after that, you will have your post-test, which is composed of 15 questions. ABCD lang po ito, my dear math learners. So, I'm sure you can answer this. You just use your critical thinking skills and your analysis. Okay? Now, my dear math learners, if you are still new to this channel, I hope you click that subscribe button and notification bell. And if you want this channel to reach out more people, please pakiclick na lang din ng like button at i-share ito sa inyong mga fellow friends, classmates, and schoolmates. Ito pa rin ang inyong abot kamay na math teacher si Sir Ash. And always remember, masarap matuto ng mathematics kapag marami tayong nagsasama-sama. Alright, so always keep safe, God bless, and take care always.
I will take a little trip over yonder, so I can take a look around at what you've seen. I can see from where I am you're on an adventure in a place you can't describe.